Hello abgehoben, hello YouTube, new video, new luck with the same old energy. It's big news time. Plarium has announced the next event. A teaser has been released for a few hours now, and there have already been the first speculations in the past few hours. I have a bit more information for you, and I'm allowed to share a little with you now. So let's just take a look at what awaits us in the coming weeks. I'm going to quickly play the teaser in the background so you know what it's about. So we get a little preview from Plarium. Let's see. Okay, that was it already. A very short teaser. They're calling the whole thing Raid Chaos Awakes. And the first part of this new event, let's just call it an event, will be that the event dungeon is coming back. Event dungeon. And you can see a bunch of text in the background. I'm not going to read it all out loud, but basically, for the first time, we'll have a mythical hero as the opponent. In the previous event dungeons, as you know, the Queen of Hearts and Odin were our opponents. Now, a new mythical hero will be introduced to the game, and that's the hero we'll be fighting against. It's just the classic marketing tactic again. They want to promote the mythic hero and show how good he is. Whether it will actually be that difficult and whether the hero is really that good and yada yada yada, we'll just have to wait and see. It's also not yet clear whether we'll be able to earn this new mythical hero somehow. There are some rumors going around in the background that this could possibly be the first mythical fusion. Personally, I don't believe that. I think we'll just have to get him from red shards again. For anyone who's up for that, well, we'll see. We'll see. So nothing is set in stone yet. It's also not yet clear, at least I haven't found a date, when the whole thing is officially supposed to go live, the event dungeon. I suspect it will be next week, but I haven't found anything in the news here that gives a date. So for now, I'm assuming it will be next week, but of course it could end up being a bit later. At the moment, I just don't know. Right, so she will be a new mythical hero. And I actually haven't looked over the skill kit yet. I've only read through these things here. In her base form, she will be a support hero, and in her alternate form, she'll be able to hit hard. At least that's what Plarium says in the text. And in the second part, you can already see it says something like being forced in flames, blah blah blah. Karossa is now better than protected from HP burn. In other words, they want to tone down HP a bit, because up until now we could kill the Queen of Hearts and also Odin pretty quickly by triggering HP and HP. They want to address that a bit after all these years. They're going to cap HP burn damage at 1%. Well, we'll see. The community always finds other ways. I think we'll have a relatively fast team again across the board. We'll also find something that hopefully a lot of people can replicate. Once that's out, we'll definitely be a bit more active on Twitch as well and build new teams there. The test server isn't available yet. I don't think we'll get a test server for this either. Yeah. It also says below that she will bring 2 new buffs into the game. I'd say we'll take a look at that in a moment when we go over her skill kit, because it fits the situation better than if we were to look at it now. In my opinion, it wouldn't make much sense otherwise. Let's take a look at her appearance. This is the first form, the base form. Personally, to be honest, I think the appearance is really not well done. We're talking about a mythical hero here. And just look at the outlines of the shoes. There's no outline at all. Same with the legs, no outline there either. Here, the upper body as well. I think Plarium needs to focus a bit more on the visuals again, because that was always a strength. By now, I would say that other games have definitely overtaken Raid in that regard, Zeal. Even the alternate form here looks a bit more spectacular with the wings. But even there, I still miss those sharp outlines a bit. For example, if I look at a Tuhana, a hero from 2 years ago, she looks way better in terms of quality, but oh well, we're not here for the visuals. We're here to see what the hero can do. For that, we'll just go over the skills again, as usual. And let's get a first impression. Could this hero turn out to be brutal? Maybe even get a basic idea of how we're going to beat the whole thing. But as I said, don't hold me to it just yet. For now, let's just take a calm look at the skill kit. Her base form, she will be a mythic. Red affinity, okay, power from the demons. So the demons are getting a new mythic. And let's take a look at it. Her A1 in the first form attacks all enemies and heals all allies. The amount of healing is proportional to this hero's attack value. Okay, so I'm already pretty sure that in her second form she will scale with attack, because otherwise that wouldn't make any sense. So that we can then, personally, I always find this quite good. This has always been a bit of a drawback, I'd say, with Mythics, because you usually have to commit to one form. Because the second form usually scales differently than the first form. So you have to decide whether to build her as a damage dealer or as some kind of support. Here, I personally think it's cool that her healing, and from the looks of it, also her A2, yeah, exactly, scales with attack. That makes sense, because then you can really build her for attack, and her support element still works pretty well. Okay then. The A2 removes all debuffs from all allies, okay, nice, and places a big attack boost and a shield buff on them, all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield buff is dependent on or proportional to her attack stat with a 3-turn cooldown. Okay, that's a solid A2, definitely. Then with her A3, she places a Torn, what was it called in German again? Crushing Rent in German, right? An increase buff and a Fortify buff on this hero for 2 turns. Let's take another look at the image. The Fortify buff reduces any enemy ignored death effects at 15 or 25%. Okay, so if an enemy is wearing a defense ignore set, for example, in the arena, that will be reduced by 15 or then by 25% with this buff. There will probably be small versions and large versions. 25% less defense ignore. That's definitely noticeable, I would say. Absolutely. That's not bad. And then she also applies an increase. That means the rest of the group is actually, at least against single target attacks, already a bit protected. Not bad. She also places an immortality buff on all allies except herself for 2 turns. But why? That somehow raises... So she protects herself from heights. In other words, she has to be attacked by all single target attacks. And then she makes everyone else killable, but not herself? Well, okay. So then she also has a passive. As always, every mythic always has a passive. And an active effect in the first form. She takes 15% less damage for each, like Ali, who is still alive. That's great. 15% less damage for each ally who is still alive. So in other words, at the start of an arena fight, that's already 45% less damage. With the Hydra, it's 60% less damage. That's not bad. That's actually, wait a minute, that's even more. That's 75% damage. Oh, lolo, that's really good. And then she has an active effect. Instantly transforms the champion to the other form whenever their last living ally is killed. Okay, she automatically transforms into the second form every time the last living ally dies. Yeah, so when she's the last one left on the battlefield, she automatically transforms into her second form. Could be cool, because that's also an active effect. 4 turns cooldown. And then there's another nuke, so you might still win the fight after all. Yeah, not bad. And the first aura in the first form increases the attack value in all battles by 35%. Of course, that also fits her skill kit. Then let's scroll down and take a look at the second form. The second form, here we have it. Okay, now there's a bit more text. Alright, her A1 in the second form, Destroyer of All. That already sounds brutal. Attacks one enemy 3 times. If this attack kills an enemy, raw damage, so 100% damage, without defense, without the defense aspect from the enemy, is distributed among all other enemies, or applied. It would be interesting to know, is that spread damage or does the raw damage count? We'll have to follow up on that, we'll have to test it. In any case, it already sounds very, very brutal. If the other enemies are not bosses or minions, the amount of pure damage dealt is equal to the total amount of the initial target's max HP. Okay, cool. If the other enemies are bosses or minions, the pure damage, they receive it equal to 10% of the max HP instead of the maximum. Okay, it's similar to how it works with Wukong. So as they write here, it's capped at 10% of HP when it's bosses or minions of bosses. The thing is, for all PvE players, I don't really see this being relevant anyway, because you just don't kill the enemy. You don't kill a Hydra head, and with the Chimera, you don't kill anything either. So this whole PvE aspect with this A1, I don't want to say it's irrelevant, because it can still hit really, really hard. We'll definitely have to test that. But let's see. But it could already be really, really crazy. The A1, then the A2 attacks all enemies. Before she attacks, she steals all buffs from all enemies. And for enemies whose attack value is lower than her own attack value, which will be the case for many, because you'll probably build her with a lot of attack, cannot resist this effect. Oh, that's great. So you don't need any accuracy for that. A complete buff steal, so you steal the buffs very, very effectively. She also places a 25% weaken debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, and again, right, this effect cannot be resisted by enemies whose attack value is lower. Weaken with the team, that could be really, really awesome. Weaken is one of the most important debuffs, both in PvE content and in PvP. In PvE, it's even a bit more important. By now, it's even more important than decreased defense, at least once your account reaches a certain stage, but that sounds pretty cool. Then the A3 places a shatter buff and a 30% crit rate increase buff on themselves for 3 turns. Fully booked, it lasts for 4 turns. So now we're back to shatter. What is executioner? Let's take a look. No, that was the wrong one. We want that executioner. Death dealer increases all champions, ignores death effects at 7.5 or 15. Okay, so with that, she probably gives herself the big one. At least that's what I'm assuming now, because that's a mythic, so that's already 15% more defense. As a buff, that's extremely high. Passive is a buff. And currently there is no other way, no other buff that somehow ignores defense. Yeah, and the big crit rate increase as well. For 3 turns, you have a buffer on the team for even longer, so it doesn't expire right away. So in theory at least, you could also build her with 70% War Master. Well, she also places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. And enemies whose attack value is equal to or lower than hers can't resist this effect either. Okay, since we're going into the event dungeon, I'm assuming that this boss has way, way more attack than we could ever build. So, it's probably already, yeah, guaranteed that we're going to get scared at some point. Okay, then of course, she also has a passive effect in this form as well. She deals 15% more damage for every dead ally. And every critical hit boosts her feral stat 10% for each dead ally. Each critical hit boosts the champion's turn meter by 10% for each dead ally. Okay, so if she has dead allies and she lands a critical hit on someone, she gets 10% more untamed every hit. 10%. If we have the adds down, which I assume will be the case since it will probably go the classic way again, we have 1 boss, we have 4 adds, and then she lands a critical hit. Now the question is, does she deal the critical hit, or is it when she receives a critical hit? You could interpret it either way. I will register the turn meter boost for each dead ally. Most likely it's really when we attack her. So in other words, when we land a critical hit on her, she gets it. 10% unbridled. I think that's how it's meant. Then she would get quite a lot of feral. If you have a longer fight and don't manage to kill her quickly, that could end badly again. And then she also has the same aura, increasing attack by 35% in all battles. At first glance, I would say that already looks pretty strong, to be honest. It can get very, very nasty. How things go in the event dungeon, of course, always depends on what kind of ads we have in there. Because most of the time, quite often, the ads are also a bit of a problem. We'll take a closer look at all of that when the time comes. But at first glance, I personally think it actually looks very, very solid. It has a good support tree in the first form. And the second form also definitely looks solid, with debuffs included. a strong hit on the first skill, presumably weapon style. A buff that ignores our defense, guaranteed. Crit rate booster, true fear. Ah, sounds nasty, sounds nasty. But we'll test it out. When the time comes, we'll take a look at it. Guys, drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of the hero? Are you excited that a new event dungeon is opening? I have to be honest, personally, yes. Because pinpoint is definitely important. Wait, there's one thing we forgot. There will also be, I don't want to keep this from you. Really, really important. A few new relics will also be added to the game. As part of the campaign, there will now be something similar to before. With Alice, there were always events that included some fragments and so on. That's how it will be this time as well. So we will get new relics, specifically 2 blue, 2 epic, 2 legendary, and 2 mythical ones. What the relics will do hasn't been determined yet. We don't know yet. It will probably be the case. If any relic really stands out now, let me put it this way. If any relic really stands out, I will of course make a separate video about it. But I always think that's good because then, for example, we free-to-play players can also passively maybe craft a few relics that could provide a benefit for some kind of content. With that in mind, folks, I'll let you go now. Feel free to write in the comments how you see the whole thing. Are you looking forward to the event dungeon? Personally, I am, as I said. And then hopefully we'll see each other in the next video. Until then, you're easy. Take care. Bye.